Sup, my name is Ryu for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council, and today we're going over the top 10 budget decks of the current format. Many of you have been waiting for this, but I was unable to deliver it because of the computer we were using, and since we're on the new one, I can deliver. So, these are my top 10. Make sure to sound off in the comments of what yours are. If I left anything out or you feel I did, explain why. Be active. It's fun. Secondly, I pretty much went through every price point. So if you got more of a budget, there's something there for you. If you got less of a budget, there's something there for you. If you're in the middle, there's definitely something there for you. There's something for everyone's budget. So there's something for everyone to be looked upon and say, okay, I could buy this deck tomorrow. I kind of want to make that an important feature on this list. So, kicking this list off is trade number 10 is Sylvans. And the reason it's Sylvans, they are still very, very strong. Lots of combos. Pretty easy to pick up. Not too hard to master. And at the same time, 90% of their cards are super cheap. Now, the reason I say 90%, their extra deck stuff can run you a little bit more than the rest of the deck. But at the same time, again, what deck really doesn't, these days have an extra deck that's going to run you a little bit. But Sylvans are fairly cheap. Everything's under around 10 bucks. So you can easily go and pick up the deck at a good pace and put it together and basically have some kind of competitive aspect to actually win some games. You're not going to lose every single game you get into. And I know for some people, they want to have a cheap but competitive deck right off the bat. Sylvans are a great option to use because Sylvans still have that competitive edge. They're going to be outclassed by meta every day of the week, but there's a lot of combos you can do with Sylvans, and you can even probably go Quasar with them if you so felt it, so that they have that flexibility. So, Sylvans, number 10. Number 9, Lightsworn. Now, I know some of you are probably going to go, but Lightsworn not budget because you need a YCS prize card. We're talking without the YCS prize card, okay? Till it gets its magical reprint in 8 years, we're talking without it. The deck is still extremely viable. Nodins are coming out. It makes a good addition for Lightsworn, because hey, free fucking rank 4, right? There's plenty of ways to build Lightsworn. You're not just having to build it one single way. You can go more chaos. You can go more standard. You can go more of the former Dragon Ruler route, where you use Dragonsworn and you banish out stuff to get JD faster. They're still getting new support. I mean, we still don't have like 1 or 2 cards from them outside of that YCS prize card, but at the same time, the deck is extremely viable and always has been. They have their own back row hate, they have their own monster hate, they have beat sticks, they have tuners, they have their own monster reborn in a sense. They have their own millage system. They go good with Glow Up Bulb or Card Trooper. There's plenty of text to use. Puro Cerberus, Necro Gardener, Gores. These are all great options. There's so much flexibility. Now, I will be the first to tell you Lightsworn are a little bit sacky and a little bit random, but that doesn't take away how good they can be and how good they easily are. Now, this is definitely something fairly freaking easy to pick up and use, because at the same time, all you gotta really do is just bring out JD, blow back row, make Michael, and then summon second JD, and you've won the game. And that you could do in your sleep. I mean, it's not extremely hard at all. Once you get the grasp of what Lightsworn are, mill.deck, and bring JD out to clear field and then make big play, then you pretty much know what you're in for. Oh, and you can use Honest with them, which is always a bonus thing. Always is a bonus to be able to use Honest. Now, Lightsworns are easy to side against because they've been used for years and people know what they're going against. So if you're just looking for a budget deck, you may want something else. But that doesn't take away how powerful they are. Royal Decree also makes a great option for this deck. Hell, you can put in Denko Sekka because of Beckoning Light logic. So, my number 8 pick is going to be Barryman. This is one that I feel doesn't get enough love, and there's plenty of decks that don't get enough love. But Barryman are primarily an OTK deck, and they are extremely affordable, because you don't even really need to use an extra deck with them. You can get away without it. All you have to really do is just get the main deck together, learn the combos, and then once you see the combos down, okay, we're ready to go. And if you want to expand upon that, then you can put extra deck cards in. they're not one of those decks that basically forces you to play an extra deck. You play without it, and you can even get a benefit off it with certain cards. They can make use of things like Monarch Stormfort, so anything that gets in your way, you can just tribute it off and go from there. At the same time, they have their own Searcher, they power boost themselves, they blow up your opponent's field, and then you just push for massive damage, shoving 8,000 straight down their throat. It's delicious, just fucking delicious. Barryman are a great OTK deck and can take your opponent off by surprise. They also have the usage of Honest if you so wish it, but most people will stay away from Honest because of the way the decks are built. But that doesn't mean you don't have to, you just can't run them. You can do what you like. Me personally, I think Barryman are one of the greatest budget and underrated decks that you'll ever come across, so definitely give it a look. Number 7, Fire Fists. These guys were a YCS deck a few formats ago, and they still have a lot of power. Now, Fire Fist combos are not super complicated, and they are extremely cheap. The most expensive thing would probably be like Castel, which comes out next week's Megatin. So there's everything's definitely cheap with Fire Fist now. There should be really no reason why Fire Fists are expensive, or one of the most expensive on this list. There's really not too many that are in that sense, because a lot of the rank 4s are getting reprinted now. We're in reprint season, so Fire Fist is definitely an option. You have the Tenki to bear, you have Gorilla for back row, you have the Tiger King for an additional search. You can play Pot of Duality, you have massive back row, you could sit on it and just basically bait out your opponent one by one. This is definitely a deck that, if that's your play style and you want to be strategic, this is the deck for you. Now, if you've never played Fire Fist, it's okay, trust me, there's plenty of Fire Fist players out there. I don't personally play Fire Fist 24/7, but there's great pro players who have and still do. And there's hybrids for Fire Fist. You could put GBs in there, so if you have something like GBs from years ago, you're just coming back to the game, and you go, I need something cheap to pick up and play, Fire Fist are your best friends. You guys are besties, because you could just alter the deck of GBs and go Fire Fist GBs. I've seen it been done, and trust me, it's viable as anything. And it's still a great deck to use, so if you have never looked at Fire Fist, definitely start looking at them, because they are one to be contended with. And plus, you have the usage of whole back row that basically makes siding that much easier. Now, again, this is like Lightsworn, where people know what they're dealing with. They know exactly how to side against it, so be extremely careful with that, and you'll be perfectly fine. Number 6, Synchrons. Now, if you don't know my love for this deck, because of how silly it can go, where basically if you take the Max Seed Challenge, you could pretty much deck out your opponent, or at the same time, you can go Quasar, Stardust Warrior, and Shooting Star Dragon all at once. This is the deck of all decks in my eyes right now. You want a fun deck that's cheap, affordable, and powerful? Synchrons are your best friends. They're endless combos, no end, so they're going to take some time for you to master if this is your first time playing them or first time getting into them. Trust me, I have plenty of videos showing basic combos. Now, there is the Hyper Librarian stuff, which also gets really silly, and you see in some of the duels that I've posted, and some of the duels I will post, where basically you're just constantly drawing cards and making big fields. Now, Quasar is extremely cheap because it got reprinted last year, so you're probably looking at like $2 at most. For the rest of the deck, it's also extremely cheap because, hey, Synchron Extreme Structure Deck gives you 90% of what you need. Everything else is fairly cheap. There's really nothing that has seen a price rise, so they definitely fit the budget. Now, again, just like Lightsworn, people know how to side against this, and they're ready for it. So if you can deal with that, and you can get a little bit creative, and there's plenty of ways of building Synchrons, trust me. I know like the back of my hand, there's plenty of ways to build Synchrons where you're not limited to one set build. Then definitely give them a good look, because they definitely deserve it. Alright, my number 5 pick is Heraldics. They have 8 Monster Reborns. They are a rank 4 deck, and they have plenty of ways of searching and adding consistency to their deck. Oh, and they special summon like crazy. Yugi514 was one of the first people to show me Heraldics and got me into the deck as a budget deck because it's extremely cheap. Everything is in a rare form. There's really nothing that's super rare except for like one card, which is the Exceed, and the Exceed comes from World Superstars, so it's extremely cheap. I think it's like $2 tops. Heraldics are viable as hell, but the only problem is, and the reason why you don't see them at top tables ever, is because everything else is just too good, and at the same time, no one really plays the deck. But hey, you could be one of the people who plays the deck, takes it, and wins with it, because it does deserve it. It's a great deck. Give it a look. It's got its own Monster Reborn, and a bunch of self-destruction, so you could probably tech in something like Mech Lords and go really ham and drop 4,000 on your opponent. Hey, look, I just took out towers in one freaking go with my freaking Granule. Just a thought. Just a thought. Just a thought. So anyway, moving on, we have number 4. Number 4 is near and dear to me, is Heroes. Woo! Everyone loves Heroes. Everyone needs a hero. In all seriousness, this deck OTK is fast, it's got plenty of consistency, and it is pretty much right under the meta, where basically it'll catch you off guard if you're not ready for it. Now, some will argue the deck needs Stratos to really be viable. I don't agree with that. The deck has 3 Shadow Mists, which is basically searching, and you're not limited down just into what you get in a hero structure deck. You can do a Destiny hero build for extremely cheap. You can do regular heroes for extremely cheap. You can do mask heroes for extremely cheap. You could do something that hasn't been seen in a while. Hero beat extremely cheap. There's plenty of options when it comes to heroes. You're not just limited to the mask hero plays. Now that is the most popular, but at the same time, heroes in general go 30 different ways. So you can play the Fusion Gate version, make that goose off max, put that massive damage in, and just win by burning your opponent for 6,000 and then getting the other damage in. I'm not going to say how, but it's called Phoenix Bomber, something like that. I don't remember the English name. But there's plenty of ways to build heroes. You're not just limited to one. Just like Synchrons, this is one deck. If you want that flexibility, you want it cheap, this and Synchrons are the way to go. My number 3 pick is extremely cheap and also underrated, is Ultra Athletes, which are UA. UA are a very, very, very peculiar deck. Everything in the deck, except for I think 1 or 2 cards, is common. And their super rares and whatnot are about $2, so they're extremely cheap. When you look at a budget deck, there was a Yu-Gi-Oh! Dictionary, and you look at the budget deck page, UA would be on the lead of that page. Now that doesn't make UA bad by any stretch of the imagination. UA are a great, amazing deck that have so much flexibility in the way that they basically drop stuff out. And they have plenty of ways of getting it to the board, and they have loops. Annoying loops! They can bounce each other back, get their effects once per turn, and you're probably going once per turn. That doesn't sound like anything. They have their own effect builder, goddammit. They have their own way of searching. They have their own fields. So you can get creative. And it's fun. And it's cheap. Give UA a look. Definitely. And I'll have a deck profile of it coming out. So if you need a build, we got you. We got a starting point for you. My number 2 pick. And I think either you love or hate this deck, and a good chunk of people love this deck, is Blackwings. Plenty of ways of building it, but this primary focus is just mainly how it's built currently, where it's the 3 Kalutes, the 2 Blizzard, things of that sort, and then you have a few room for tech. But Blackwings are a former World Championship deck, as well as a Show and Jump, which used to be YCS Championship deck. This is one that still, for the record books, is worth every single penny you put into the deck, and everything's extremely cheap. So you're not going crazy trying to find everything for it. Now some of you may say, but what if I wanted to run Trishulia in the deck? That makes it $30. Here's the thing. If Trishulia is out of your budget, or however you want to phrase it, because I made it clear last night why I don't phrase things right. If you want to play her, then you have to be able to afford her, with all due respect. If you don't, then you cut her out of the extra deck. She's not 100% needed. She's not going to be the most crucial thing in most of these decks. Lightsworn don't care. They have Michael. Blackwings don't completely need her because they have Black Sonic. They have Icarus attack. They can make Direwolf. Direwolf is such a great underrated Exceed that everyone just kind of shuns because, well, it's Direwolf. But in all honesty, in something like Blackwings, he shines, and he's going to be super useful. Blackwings have plenty of bad cards. So please make sure to avoid those bad cards. Just look at a few Blackwing deck profiles and you'll see what I mean. You'll see what cards are not used. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that Konami gave them so much anime support that it just got bad. So you want the good Blackwing stuff. And the good Blackwing stuff is extremely cheap. So I'm not going to point you in the direction that says this is going to cost you $200. Most of these decks under here will cost under that guaranteed. The only thing that may not is probably Heroes if you probably pick it up online somehow and I don't know, you get gypped. I really don't know. Maybe just the #1 pick would be the only one, but again, these are all under 100 or even cheaper. So keep that in mind. So Blackwing's definitely a great option. Flexibility. They have their own draw power, which they don't use, but they have plenty of search power to mix up for it. And the #1 top budget deck currently is Ritual Beast. And the reason I'm saying Ritual Beast, they're extremely cheap, they're extremely viable, they're close to the meta as close gets. They were like right under every other deck, but they were definitely one that take a little time to learn. So if you got the patience to learn the deck, and not everyone's going to be great with it right off the bat, I'll be the first to tell you I wasn't the greatest with Synchrons, and I've just gotten really good with it after spending 6 months with it. But Ritual Beast is pretty much just like Infernities were back in the day, where the endless loops keep going and going and going and going and going and going. And they have plenty of ways of doing it. Now, the one big issue with Ritual Beast is sometimes you can get a brick hand. A brick hand is like when you have nothing to make plays off of. Outside of that, Ritual Beasts are amazing decks that can drop fusions that protect themselves. Fusions that basically are giant beast monsters with high attack points. But besides the point, they play sort of like a cross between Inferni and GBs together. If you ever watch Infinity Loops and you watch the way GBs tag out and like contact with each other, it's a mix between those two. It's a little bit hard to explain without directly showing you, but I feel something later down the line is going to be coming for that, so it's okay. It'll be fairly soon. But Ritual Beasts are definitely one that you definitely want to look at if you want something super edgy and competitive, and you want something that's going to be good for a very, very long time. Ritual Beasts. Everything on this list is going to be good for a very long time. Probably the only thing that may kind of fall out, I would say, is probably either Sylvans or Heroes, depending on how you build it, but I really don't see it happening. But Ritual Beast, definitely something that will either stay competitive or even go further in the competitive scene, so buy it while it's cheap, right? Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'm ready for the TheYugiohCouncil. Make sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and after this little outro finishes, there is a little thing that'll take you to more videos if you like to see more videos. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video, and thanks for checking out the top 10. And if you post the top 10 down below, thank you. We're going to be coming back with more top 10 probably next week, because I want to try and make it a weekly thing. This computer's great in how it handles. So the videos that you see above you, the little links with the names, those are links. If you click on them, they'll take you to the videos that you may have missed from the past couple of days. I usually put in the last 2 videos, so that way you guys can catch up on anything you missed out on. Anything else, you can just check out directly on our page on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. I'm Ryu, and I'll see you later. Thanks again. Peace.